Hello and welcome to the Gallant Few Rangers podcast. My name is Mason Stewart and I'll be your host tonight for another Premier League show. With me tonight, we've got Jamie. How are you, Jamie?
I'm good, Mason. Thank you very much for having me back.
Top man, mate. And also Colin. How are you, Colin?
I'm good, Mason. Thanks for having me on.
No, thanks for coming on. As always, so much to get through it. Another busy weekend in the Premier League. I think it had it all again this weekend. Boys, Jamie, I'll come straight away to the Liverpool game because I know you obviously love talking about your team, but it was game of the weekend for me. It was a really good game of football. Finished obviously Liverpool 2, Arsenal 2. Arsenal come at the traps early doors, absolutely flying. And I've got to be honest, when it went 2-0, I said they're going to run away with it here. But Liverpool responded, and for me, the turning point was Xhaka, when him and Trent Alexander had a little bit of handbags, but it just blew up, and the crowd got on his back. And then we see a Liverpool team that's what they're capable of. They completely turned it and should have won it in the end. But what did you make of this one on Sunday?
Yeah, going into the game, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't exactly hopeful because of obviously recent results. I knew we would score, but it's probably more, was it damage limitation or was it, I didn't think we'd come away with the 3 points. We started pretty positive, but I think it lasted about 2 minutes. Arsenal decided to start playing the ball about, and let's not be mistaken. Liverpool or not, Arsenal probably would have done that first 20 minutes against 90% of the Premier League teams as an opening when they were in that kind of form. I said to you at the beginning when we started doing this, I'm absolutely a massive fan of Saka, and he just creates so much, and he's so young. But Martinelli's the one that's kind of stealing the show a little bit. Arsenal were top draw. That first goal, a couple of indecisive decisions from the defenders, but to even get in those positions and run through was commendable. We forget how young that forward line actually is. It actually reminded me of Liverpool 2 years ago. Liverpool 2 years ago were blowing teams away from the first 20 minutes of games, but then we're like winning games 3-2 or something. It was like allowing other teams getting back in. That was pretty much what happened on Sunday. Trent showed probably the most passion in that exchange with Xhaka that he probably has done the last 2 years, and that's not a discredit to the lad. It just he has this laboured look about him when he's defending. He's always smiling, but he was, you could tell his panties were in a twist over that challenge, and the fact it kind of ignited everybody. I think we scored 2 minutes later from Curtis Jones making a dash into the box and Henderson making a slip and Salah coming at the back post. So going in at half time 2-1, you then start to believe and you think, right. However, if you remember the City game and the Real Madrid game, we kind of got ourselves back into those games only to come out and let them score within the first 60 seconds and blow us away. So once the first 60 seconds were away and you realise that actually the crowd was still up, the players were still in the mood, the second goal for me was inevitable. It just came probably 10 minutes too late, but I was more impressed with the fact it was Bobby that got the equaliser because his record now against Arsenal, I think that was his 11th goal against Arsenal for Liverpool. It shows what we're going to miss when he does leave at the end of the season because he is in his own right a top quality player. Just the way Liverpool play, he probably doesn't start the games because what he likes to do is he likes to play the defensive side of being a striker. He comes deep, collects the ball, plays people in. Whereas Liverpool's forward three, when you'll think of their forward three now, it's always about running in behind, running, head on with the ball. So he's opted to leave, and it's going to be an absolute crying shame. But yeah, it was good to see the guys fight back. We should have snatched it. Salah's penalty again, cost us in the long run, but Kanate on the 6th minute, I think it was, how he's chesting a ball a yard out rather than sticking his head on it or sticking a knee on it or something. Of all the things to do, he stuck his left tit on it, and Ramsdale somehow palms that away. But it is what it is. I would probably, a lot of people will say that we actually should have won that game, and I would totally agree. However, if you go back 3 weeks, we had City, Chelsea, and Arsenal back to back. To come away with 2 points, I'm actually quite happy with, because yes, we took a scalping off Man City, but to come away with 2 draws from an inconsistent Chelsea and a high flying Arsenal, I'm more trying to take the positives away from it than anything else. So pleasantly happy, and I think I mentioned to you before. Thankful it wasn't a 12:30 kickoff, or else it probably would have put me in a stinker for the rest of the weekend. But yeah, it was about time we put in a performance like that.
Yeah, no, funny you say that about the 12:30 kickoff. I remember you saying it to me one on last week, but before the Man City game, I looked at it and I put Man City on the early bet, mate. I was like, they're a banker. So I'll remember that. But Colin, on an Arsenal side, then they're winless in their last 10 visits to Anfield. So it's always, historically a tough venue to go for Arsenal. I think they've won the last 2 times they've won the league, though. They've won 2-1 at Anfield. So do you think it was 2 points dropped or a point gained for them on Sunday?
Up until the 90th minute, it was 2 points dropped. I think, and the reason I say that, I think we absolutely need to commend the Arsenal goalkeeper. Was it Ramsdale? He was terrific. But before we get to that point, I think you're spot on, Mason, about the turning point when is it Martinelli? He's getting into a tussle with Xhaka, sorry, getting into a tussle with Trent. Oh no, I forgot his name. I forgot how to speak today. This is how bad the weekend of football was. But he gets into that tussle with Trent, and this, I don't really understand why he does that. And I think this shows the naivety of Arsenal. And if they had maybe had another couple of league titles under the belt, Man City, when they do this, Man City go 2-0 up at Anfield and they start to just take the sting out of the game. We know Anfield is a very emotional ground. At the best of times, it's one of these fan bases which will always look for something to react and try. And it's not really like, if you think about Borussia Dortmund, for example, it's just a wall of noise constantly. It's not. Time and time again, Anfield, you can get that spark. I think Ibrox is very similar as well. Something will happen and there'll just be an atmosphere all of a sudden, and that helped it. If you're well versed in winning league titles and going the distance, you don't get yourself into these situations. And it was needless, you were 2-0 up, and Liverpool just kicked into gear, and Arsenal did struggle to deal with them in the second half. I thought Martinelli in the first half was terrific. I don't think he's getting enough praise. He was absolutely excellent in the first half. But back to the point I made earlier about the keeper, it could have been two each long before Firmino's goal, and then is it maybe 3 or 4 saves in the last 6-7 minutes? Terrific. That's when we talk about sliding doors moments between Arsenal. I think you can maybe go either way. The sliding doors moment could be if they see that out 3 points, that's the sign of champions. If you're glass half full, you see Ramsdale keeping them in, getting a point. Time will tell. I still back Arsenal to win this league, but
he's throwing it in the Arsenal camp as well.
Do you remember last season, Liverpool-Arsenal at Anfield? Arteta did it. Arteta had a big fight with Klopp on the sides, and it ignited us, and we ended up absolutely stomping them. There's just something about the Arsenal fixture that at Anfield that kind of it ticks a few boxes for the home team.
And that's what I'm saying. They should learn for that. And I'll use Ibrox as a very fair comparison. The best thing you can do at Ibrox is just frustrate the home fans.
Shut the fans
and get them on the home team's side. And I think if Arsenal played their game, Anfield would have started to get on the backs of Liverpool.
Did you notice as well in the first half, every time Liverpool were getting some kind of a momentum or a shot, a player from Arsenal would miraculously go down and spend about 30 seconds to a minute on the floor looking for treatment. And it happened all the way through the first half. So that was obviously a ploy that Arteta's went in and went, kill the atmosphere, kill the momentum, don't let them get anything. And for 40 minutes, they were doing it because we were getting riled. Jordan Henderson was having an argument with people. Van Dijk was arguing because Martinelli was doing it. Gabriel at the back was doing it. Xhaka's the first person to stand up and try and take it to them, and it kind of backfired.
Yeah. No, that's the thing though. Like, got to praise Liverpool for coming back in the game 2-0 down.
Yeah.
It could have got, as you said, the game could have got away from Liverpool quite quickly. But Arsenal, a team that's, to be fair, has had a really good season, and I just thought that I think the worrying signs, if I was an Arsenal fan, is they didn't play their game. Once that happened, there weren't any period of that game after that where I thought, right, they're starting to get control now. It was a case of Liverpool are going to score in a minute. It was like they're going to score in a minute, and it was coming the whole time. So I look at the fixtures and I just think there's a couple coming for Arsenal, especially Newcastle away. And if Newcastle was still in the race for top 4, I can't see this Arsenal team going there when the chips are down and beating Newcastle at Newcastle. But they might they might be able to drop points there and still win the league. So it'll be an interesting one. But before we move on to the other games, we've got to touch on the Jamie. I'll start with you on this one. I'll come to you both on this. Andy Robertson gets
a little assault, mate. Assault.
No. You know what?
So what I would say is there's history between those two individuals.
Right.
So last season, Andy Robertson got sent off at Tottenham for swiping into a player, and he was deemed to have been recklessly, attempting to injure the player, if you like. It was that linesman that was actually very, very close to that incident and was the one that called the ref over. And apparently there was a bit of a ding-dong after that game and between said individuals to say, that they didn't respect each other. There was also an incident in the game. Now, this is proper conspiracy tinfoil hat stuff, right? Somebody's actually shown a video on Twitter where the ball goes out in front of that linesman, and it's an Arsenal ball, and he traps the ball and pushes it back to the Arsenal player. But for Liverpool, it was like he let the ball go through his legs. So I think, and this is my complete hypothesis, I think Andy's pretty much held on to that, and at half-time he's went to try and say something to him. And for whatever reason, that linesman's decided to whip out his fucking elbow and chin him like a full frontal assault. And I hope he gets his 8-match ban. But in all honesty, I don't believe this is something that's been born from, if you go back a couple of weeks, do you remember Bruno against the linesman at Anfield in that 7-0 win? There was a lot that was made about that, and I do think that was a bit shitty, but I don't think this is something that's came from that. I think this is just something that's been brewing because it looks like the FA haven't done anything to stamp it out in the last few weeks. There's been a lot of incidents about surrounding refs and stuff. I seen a stat the other day that apparently the FA have handed out over £1 million of fines to clubs in the last 2 years for uncontrolling players. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So I do believe that something has to be done. Personally, I would say miking up the ref would be the quickest way to intervene, because it's all there, it's on video, it's on tape, and you can hear everything. And I think then people can be held accountable. But yes, definitely unsavoury. Do I believe he'll get a big ban? No, I think he'll get dropped for a couple of games to take him out of the firing line. If it was the two players on the pitch, would the ref send the two of them off? No, of course he wouldn't. Would something be done in the background? No, probably not. But again, is the linesman held to the same account? That's probably what I would fully expect that the FA have some kind of rule book on these kind of incidents about the referee or the linesman maybe losing his cool. So they might actually throw the book at him in terms of what that punishment might look like. But again, Andy brings up, I'm not going to say brings it on himself, but if he doesn't go to him, it doesn't happen.
I agree with Roy Keane, mate. He's a baby.
Ark away, pish, away and shit. Roy Keane, the guy talks about being a baby, right? You're proper triggering me now. I know you're fishing right now. Fucking Roy Keane, the guy that's got a million photos of him screaming in front of a referee. Nah, baby my horse.
Colin, couple of points. No, look, I'm not. I can't. Got to condemn what the linesman done. You can't. He's not a lot in it for me, but you can't raise your arms, your hands, whatever. But Andy Robertson, to be fair, has got a history of screaming at linesmen and referees after games. I think there was a couple of weeks ago. He's not even played and he's the one that's on there doing it. But this not just him, footballers altogether. I think they get away with murder the way that they talk to referees. Look, as supporters, we've seen again. Didn't want to talk about referees at all after the weekend with the Old Firm game, but they're going to make mistakes. And I just think I think rugby have got it perfectly. You give a bit of back chat to the referee in rugby, mate. You're off. That's it. And as you said, for young kids that are watching that, Mitrovic the other week is a good example. It's just it can't be happening. But the talks lately is there's got to be 2 meters between that's nuts.
Yeah, I don't see that happening, because all you got to do is you got to stand 2 meters and still shout at them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
nonsense. Where does it come into play if a ref accidentally runs 2 meters towards a player?
Exactly.
It's a fluid game, and even a non-contact thing. What if a player's getting up and the ref pats him in the back or whatever? Then it's tinfoil hat on. But you're right, Mason. I think we just need to be a wee bit cleverer what we do with the Premier League. The referees, even the Premier League, where they do manage it quite well, so that doesn't surprise me. There's been £1 million worth of fines. I actually thought it would have been more. If you're strict away it would have been more for players, with the way some of them react to the referees, and it does have to be a zero tolerance. Equally, the officials do have to, and I don't want to blow this out of proportion, because for every 25 instances of, probably more, for every 100 instances of somebody being a dick to a referee or linesman, something like this happens, it's the 1 in a million. It doesn't excuse it, but they do have to be held to the same account. And I disagree with Jamie. If that's happening on the pitch, I know it was at half time, but if that's happening and the referee reviews it, I fully expect the referee to send off the player who's raised the elbow. Where I agree with or not, the rules right now, if there's a strike in motion where your arm or your forearm, it's got to be a sending off. So the same, whatever that translates in terms of severity for an official doing it to a player, it's only fair that the book gets flung at them. So I think I don't know if it'll be the late 8 match ban or whatever. I think he will be out the limelight for a few weeks, so and rightly so. But I think
he's definitely been dropped for this weekend.
Aye, and rightly so.
Yeah.
And I mean, there has to be a performance I speak about it up here all the time. Referees need a performance management model, and that has to be part of it.
That's where I'll give the FA and the Premier League credit, by the way. See if we'll come on to another referee in a minute and linesman, but if NBA, see if they make a mistake, they get dropped and their name gets put out there, and it's public knowledge they've made a mistake, they won't be involved for the next 2-3 weeks. But yeah,
the one thing I'll say is that there's obviously been a lot of changes, because Howard Webb's now in charge of the referee panel, if you like, and he's very, very hard on the direction it should go. And as a result, we've seen a lot of retirements in the league this season. I think 4 referees that have been there for traditional the last 3 or 4 years have all handed in and said that this is going to be the last season, or have immediately left. So I do believe there's a new wave coming through, and it's going to be a new regime, if you like. So it's just, where we go with it.
No, definitely. And yeah, I know we're talking about Premier League, but I'd love to see Scottish football follow suit, but I don't think that will happen. So moving it on then, Colin, I'll come to you first on this one. Leicester 0, Bournemouth 1. Graham's favourite team, Bournemouth, got an absolutely massive win this weekend. Me and Jamie, we've already sung Billings' praise on this pod quite a few times, but he got the winner, Dean Smith, to take over at Leicester, which is, I can't get my head around that one, to be honest. The talks between Leicester and Jesse Marsh fell through a few days ago. Again, I think the same with him with Southampton. He just wanted longer than what the clubs were willing to give him. But that's Bournemouth now picked up another win, their third Premier League win away from home. What did you make of that one, Saturday, Colin?
I am fucking livid that Graham Campbell hasn't shown face in this podcast tonight. Honestly, every time they get a result, he's got some work night out or a Love Island zone or something. He's a bigger shite bag than Andy Robertson, I'll say that. But I said weeks ago, I think Bournemouth went to went to Newcastle, or they were at home in Newcastle and they go beat 3-2 or 3-1 or something, and they had a go. And at that point, they were in the relegation zone. I mind saying on that pod that they've been very fun to watch. I think they've just accepted they can't be any worse, and they've started to open up and they're playing with a wee bit of freedom, and it's bearing fruit now. And I do like that. I'm now quietly hoping that they do stay up, because there is one thing to grind results out, and I'm not going to be daft, right? Some teams need to do that, and a lot of teams will be doing that, and that's how success comes. But the wee boy romantic football fan in me likes to see teams like going for broke, Roy of the Rovers kind of stuff, and they are. They are playing quite well, so it's a big 3 points, because it's almost a cliche, like 6 points when you're taking points off the teams around you. And Leicester, they're in real trouble. I'm sure we'll come on to Dean Smith. I'll put my tuppence worth in the now. I like him. I think. I know that's not going to be popular on here, but I was shocked when Aston Villa sacked him. I thought he would have kept him up, and I quite liked him as a coach. He absolutely bombed at Norwich. Like, I think he lost half his games, but I don't know if it's enough to keep him up. But I think this is one for next season. I think Dean Smith gets him out of the Championship.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Jamie, what did you make of a couple of things? Obviously, Colin's there, said he's quite a fan of Dean Smith. I actually think that I think his time was up to leave Villa, but in hindsight, then I know they obviously appointed Gerrard, but probably better off staying with Dean Smith at that time. But I just thought he was, at the time he left Villa. I think Villa approved. We'll come on to them a little bit later, that they're on a different. They can attract an even better manager than that. But for Leicester, that's their 9th home defeat this season, and their 4th in a row at home as well. So, is he the man to keep them up? Because, again, maybe I'm being harsh, but I just don't see it.
I think, they've got like 8 games left, and I think that question can only be answered after 8 games, because if he keeps them up, then the obvious answer is yes. If he doesn't, then it was a no. and as stupid as that sounds, but there's something about, before we even say Dean Smith, the report was that they'd approached 4 different managers before even speaking to Dean Smith. Rafa was being talked about. Jesse March was being talked about. There was, I think I mentioned last week that Nigel Pearson was apparently being touted to be making a comeback. So they were obviously shipping around. Dean Smith is a safe pair of hands, is probably what I would say. As in, he knows the league well. He knows that end of the league well. Leicester, I think, are just scrambling right now. They we said a couple of weeks ago that their owners cleared their debt and put them in a better standing, but nowhere would they have accounted for the potential of a possible relegation. So I think they're absolutely scrambling right now about what to do, how to do it. I would say it was a shock at the weekend, seeing that. But I thought Leicester would have won, but yeah, Bournemouth have been surprising a lot of us. A fair few times this season. The one thing we've always said about Bournemouth is that they do have goals in them, and while they're scoring goals, then they'll get points. So I was completely shocked, because I thought Leicester would have turned them over. Leicester with the new manager bounce after Brendan had gone, but they just completely didn't show up at all. There was shots of their owner at full time who looked as though he was crying, because it was that shock of a result. Dean Smith was then announced about 24 hours after, less than 24 hours after Jesse Marsh had pretty much docked it back. So what kind of a deal has been brought on? I mean, who knows? What kind of a target has he been set? Have they literally just walked in and just said, save us? Yeah. Can he really do that in 8 games? I mean, the fixture list that they've got is quite tough. When we've seen some of the games that they've got to play around them, I'm quite fearful for Leicester where they're set at the moment.
First game in charge is away to Man City. That's a bastard, isn't it?
And that's what I mean. It's not like we spoke about Palace a couple of weeks back when Vieira got punted, and we all said that. Well, I'd say a couple of us said that was probably a mad decision, considering who they were coming up against, because they were going to play all the 8 teams around them. Leicester are not. Leicester are playing a majority of the top-ended table teams that are all fighting for positions. I think Leicester are going to struggle really, really bad.
Yeah, no, I think they're bang banging trouble. I'm not one point. I didn't think they'd go down on the Rodgers. To be honest, I think I've always said that he in the end he had to go. But I just think going to point Dean Smith with the games that are coming, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. I think it could be whoever picks up 4 or 5 points more than, because Nottingham Forest can't buy a win either, and we'll come into them a little bit later. But Colin, we've got to go back to referees again. Hoping this is the last time we'll talk about referees this week. It was Spurs that beat Brighton 2-1. It was Brighton's first defeat in 8 games. They've been on an excellent run, and to be fair, it looked like they were really hard done by here. I won't run through every VAR incident because I'll be here all night, but they should have had at least one penalty, and I think one of their goals should have stood as well. What did you make of that them decisions?
Aye, it was the second worst refereeing performance in Britain at the weekend. Any listeners to the Daily News Show know what it was beat by, but Brighton, they were. I don't want to say robbed, but they were robbed. And you don't usually see De Zerbi that animated, and even after the game, he was so emotional. There's no getting away for these decisions, and this is what really annoys me about these decisions is I'm going to call them like the dinosaurs in the old guard, like your Alan Shearers and stuff. And I love Alan Shearer as a player, but as a pundit, all season he's just going on about VAR. VAR works, the technology works, the cameras work. It's the idiots making the decisions, and that's what it is. I don't know how we've not got them right there. It's an absolute shocker, as you say. Having said that, I still think Brighton had enough chances to put that game to bed. And I think, I don't know if I'm maybe being a wee bit too harsh on them, but I thought they probably should have came away with at least 2 goals. It's hard to criticise them for defending. Son and Kane have been kind of inconsistent at best this season, but that's the quality that they have. But I do think Brighton should have had at least 2 goals in their own merit. If the refs done their job, I thought maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And on Spurs, Son and Kane, as you said, that's Son's goal was top drawer. To be fair, Kane took his goal well as well. But yeah, if you're a Brighton supporter, you'd be very disappointed. I believe the main guy on VAR, I can't remember what his name is, but he's been dropped for the next 2 Premier League games. Am I right in saying? I think he's been dropped for the next 2 weeks. So look, they took accountability, and Brighton have got an apology. Jamie, it was a feisty one before the game even started, because I think the Spurs caretaker boss and De Zerbi were at it before kick-off, and it carried onto the pitch, and it was one of them games. But fair play to Brighton, by the way, because again, they've lost at the weekend, but I wouldn't write them off yet for Europe, because I think they're a right good team.
I thoroughly expected Tottenham to turn up and actually put the Brighton hoodoo of the performances kind of on a nib edge. Brighton absolutely bossed that whole game. Like, they absolutely bossed that whole game, and Colin's right, they were absolutely robbed. I was pleasantly surprised with actually how well they played, and I've been saying it all season. I mean, I don't think you can really count on much these days when you've got people like Danny Welbeck up front. But by all rights, even he had a good game. He had a goal ruled out. The one thing I like about Brighton is it's not all reliant on one person. Do you know what I mean? Like, you remember when Newcastle were doing so well at the beginning of the season? It was the Almiron show. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not that. Mitoma's been doing good. Marsh has been doing great. McAllister obviously came back from the World Cup, and he's looking really solid. Do you remember before it, all the talk was about Caicedo? Nobody's talking about him right now, because they've been outshadowed by all these other people. And I absolutely love the young lad up front. 18 years old. He looks as though he's got a bright future ahead of him. Got a lot of time for the way he's playing. Brighton look like the real deal. I'm not exactly Donk's biggest fan, but even he looks as though he's kind of getting better. It's mad with the performances they're getting out of them, and I think that's the big credit to them, because as much as people have put it down to their management, I think De Zerbi's one to watch with this team, because this team were playing like this before he walked in the door. In my opinion, he's just managed to kind of keep the smooth running of it and just kind of, allowed them to express a little bit more, if you like. Spurs look as though they're in trouble. If Spurs play like that against the majority of the teams that they've got coming up, they're going to drop out of top 5.
Yeah.
Those kind of performances. I mean, let's face it, Son's goal was arguably one of the goals of the bloody season, but his stats this season is arguably his worst he's had since he joined Tottenham. Kane's obviously got his goal, but apart from that, you didn't really see much about him. Again, we're still not seeing. I don't know if Richarlison was playing. I think he's out for the season, isn't he, Richarlison? And they brought the lad in Danjuma, who can't get a game. Kulusevski last season was arguably one of the best players in the league. That he's a shadow of himself this season. So yeah, I think Spurs are in trouble, and I don't think Stellini is the one is going to help that situation at all. You're picking a fight with De Zerbi before the match even started about slating his style of play. De Zerbi was never going to sit on that. You seen when they tried to shake hands, De Zerbi pulled him up for it right there and then, and it just carried on throughout the game. I like that from De Zerbi though, because he's passionate about it. He shows he's got a bit of ball. He's not shirking away. Stellini I just expect Stellini just didn't think he was going to get a reaction like that. And you could see that when the ref was coming over to send him off, Stellini was stood there like a statue, not even making eye contact, while it was all kicking off with everybody at the side of him. You're like, you're a proper shitebag.
I love that for Stellini, but it's almost petty. Like after the game in the interview, De Zerbi was his own animated self, and Stellini was asked about it, and he's just like,
"What?
I'm the manager of Tottenham Hotspur." That's what his words. I'm Stellini. I'm the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, and you're just like, you're fucking rat.
You knew exactly what he did. But yeah, Brighton, top marks for them. I thought they were brilliant. Didn't deserve the results. But again, PGO, MLL have had to come out and apologise for decisions not going their way. I think the last time they did, I think Wolves have had 3 apologies so far. Brighton have had 3 apologies now. Like, it's getting crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's fair enough for them taking accountability, but sorry is not going to get Brighton, in Champions League.
Well, I think the big difference is that see if Matoma's first, see if he gets that penalty, which see if his goal doesn't get ruled out. In my opinion, that's not handball. That goal should have stood. See if they're winning the game, and that goal doesn't really amount to anything, or that instant, this won't be getting such traction. The fact is, these decisions are actually costing points.
Yeah.
And these points aren't like dead points. These are teams that are chasing positions. So it actually means every ounce of why they're doing it. So it is massively under the microscope at the moment.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Colin, we'll move it on then. The Saturday night game was Southampton 1, Man City 4. Kevin De Bruyne registered his 100th Premier League assist now for Kevin De Bruyne. He's just, again, been a quiet season for him as well, but he's just maybe, him, Man City are just starting to click at the right time. I'll put a question out to both of you and let me know if you know it. Haaland scored 44 goals now in all competitions. Do you know the two Premier League players that have on the same, that they've got it's the record, and they've got them in all competitions? They're both Premier League players. I won't say who, but can you take a guess who they are?
I'm going to guess it's maybe somebody who had a good European run. I'm going to guess. I know Haaland would have been the quickest to get there, but is it Henry and Drogba?
No.
I'm sure I seen this on Twitter the other day, and I can't remember who it was, but he was top because of the amount of goals he's got and the shortest of goal span. I'm gonna say quickest goals. Luis Suarez. No. Fernando Torres. It can't be Fernando Torres, can it?
No. I'll give you a clue. One play for Liverpool and one play for Man United. One plays for Liverpool and one played for Man United?
Salah, of course.
Salah's one.
Of course, yeah,
Fuck.
Salah.
Um,
Salah got most goals in this season, his debut season.
and Van
Salah,
Persie would have been the other one then.
Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Ruud van
Of
Nistelrooy.
course.
That's the joint ever. So Haaland's on set to go and absolutely obliterate that. Colin,
records.
we can talk about Southampton and they're obviously struggling, etc. I don't think they was ever expected to take anything out of this one until Man City scored. It was game over once they did. To be fair, what did you make of the game Saturday? Obviously Haaland with the overhead kick as well, but they're just starting to hit that gears at the right time.
I'll be honest, I actually thought the best chance that happened first of the game was for Southampton. That boy Sulemana should have done better, should have put them 1-0 up, and I just think this is the difference now. And the Man City seen that and they just got pissed off and they just poked the bear, didn't they? De Bruyne. I was going to single out a couple of assists, but I thought they were all good assists. I know we're not all massive Jack Grealish fans in terms of him as a person, but he's really hitting form as well. Kevin De Bruyne is just the biggest compliment I can give him. He's now starting to consistently provide the things that we expect from him. He in years to come he'll be looked back as a Premier League great. But it's not just Haaland. We spoke about this time and time again. The City don't need to focus a game around Haaland. We were just speaking about Spurs there. I think Spurs a big issue. They try and just fit in Harry Kane, but you could put, I don't know, you could play Grealish as a false nine if you want. You could play Mahrez up there or whatever. There's so many different combinations that City can do with the lineup, or even during the game. Like the threat comes from everywhere, comes from the fullbacks, comes from midfield, playing through the lines, comes from the cross balls. See the amount of goals that City get for cross balls. I'd love to see the stat, because we think about City just this juggernaut, quick passing, one touch passing, but they're so good at getting the ball out wide and into the forward players or the players making the late runs, and there is an art to that. And I know with the football, I like the prestige footballing art. It's looked down upon, but City do it so well. They just have a threat for anywhere in the park.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And funny you say that. I was saying that actually on Saturday they crossed. Something we don't say about Pep Guardiola's teams is the amount of crosses they get in the box. But they've now got someone that's, you can put it in any of that areas and he's getting there. I think for the goal, his movement isn't probably spoke about enough when you speak of Haaland. It's just the finishing, but his movement's very, very good. But he's got that 2-3 yards of a burst where no one's getting there. No one's getting near him. But Jamie, what did you make of that Saturday? I think Colin makes a good point in saying, to be fair, Southampton had the best chance early on, and he didn't ever back himself. Sulemana, when he got through, I just thought, you do not back yourself at all here, and he ended up overrunning.
Yeah, I going before the game, I think you said it right off the bat. Nobody expected anything from Southampton, to be honest. City are City, and apart from that cup game where they played against Southampton earlier in the season, City were a different team right now compared to that team at that point. And I think the biggest thing for me is probably not De Bruyne. I think the biggest thing is that Pep stopped playing roulette with people. Yeah. You go back a couple of months and he was playing Rico Lewis left back / midfielder at one point, and Bernardo Silva was playing left back. He's kind of stopped all that now. He stopped the rotation. He's got the same people playing the same games. John Stones is back in the defence now. Kyle Walker's not even getting in the team. He's playing with a 3 central defenders, kind of all playing the same role, but actually sprinting out, and one fills into the middle. So he's kind of settled on his team now, and I think this is where we're starting to see City start to click. The result was no surprise. It was expected that City would do that. It was always about Haaland, though, coming back from his injury. He had the 1 week out the week before. Was he going to come back in the same form? Yeah, he just chucked a couple more in, didn't he? Overhead kicks for a laugh. But I think you guys were just talking about that goal there. That's the goal that City have not had in their ranks in the last 4 or 5 years. They've had the ball in behind. They've had the flair play. But see that one, that in ball into the 6-yard box and a running jump. Not many players had that height for City and doing those kind of things. Haaland is an absolute beast at those because of how aggressive he is when he jumps for that ball in the air. You go back to some of his goals he was getting at the beginning of the season, they weren't worldies. They were all poaches. They were all inside the 6-yard box where he was getting a limb on it or he was getting the quick header in. That's pretty much what he did at the weekend. He just did it with a lot more flair. So, yeah, no surprises for me at all.
No, it was City, as I said, City this stage of the season, they're the last team you want gunning you down. Pardon the pun, but Colin, we'll move it on then. Leeds 1, Palace 5. That was the early kickoff on Sunday. Did not see this one coming at all. Palace, who have struggled to score a goal. They obviously had a big win last week in the 94th minute with old Roy Hodgson coming back to Palace, and they've gone and scored 5. A tough away game. Leeds went 1-0 up as well, and I thought that's it. That's game over. But it was actually Leeds' joint biggest defeat at home in Premier League in the Premier League. So just goes to show it doesn't happen often. But what did you make of Palace on Sunday?
Wild, mate. And this is us getting into the proper crazy business end of the season, and I only seen the first. I've seen all the highlights now, but I only seen the first half, and I came away thinking, Leeds going in deservedly 1-0 up. I thought Leeds played very, very well that first 20-30 minutes, and they were chapping at the door. And I thought Bamford, he took his role well. He set such a visually pleasing goal when it goes in off the post and in a really good header. And I've came away for the game at half time, checked the results later on, and I was like, what has happened, man? That could not have been the same game that I was watching. All credit to Crystal Palace. They've come out the taps, and I think what we've seen in the second half of Crystal Palace is that they play the other forward stepping up. Obviously, Ayew got 2 goals, Edward got a goal as well, but I thought at least played quite well too. My worry was with Zaha being back out. They've relied on him so much, and the likes of Ayew and the other strikers have just really struggled to have any sort of imprint in the game. I thought they played well. They took their goals well. I thought it was a bizarre appointment. I said this last week, but it seems to be working so far, Mason.
It really is, mate. And I said, I think obviously you boys would have spoke about it last week about Roy Hodgson going back in there. I was absolutely gobsmacked that Roy 76 to go back in Palace, and what kind of health. There was rumours obviously last year at Watford and etc. But just goes to show what a manager of his sort of respect can do. And I think Palace will be, it's mad how quickly 2 wins can flip it, and you're going, yeah, they'll be fine now. Obviously, Jamie, the other end of that, just lastly on Roy Hodgson, that, as I said, that's Palace's biggest away win in the Premier League. It was 5-1. Jamie, and Colin, shout out, do you know the last Premier League manager with Palace to equal that scoreline 5-1 away?
Was it Hodgson?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be Hodgson.
Away at West Brom in 2020. So Roy Hodgson breaking all the records. But for Leeds, Jamie, what's that? A result like that, honestly, at home.
Absolute implosion. Done my cooking. I had Leeds on because I thought Palace are shite. They can't go away from home. Absolutely turned over in the first game of the cooking. Absolutely fuming. I watched the game. It's exactly the same as Colin. Bamford goal goes in. You go, yeah, they've been pushing for that. That was easily pleasing on the eye. That one went in. But what happened next? I can't even explain it. It wasn't like there was a dodgy challenge that resulted in a free kick or a penalty or anything. They just didn't react to whatever Palace were doing. The boy Elise, I've said him a couple of times earlier in the season, him and Izzy, they're cracking players, the two of them all, but they just hadn't been consistent. This was a perfect example of that. They've not been nowhere for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Manager gets punted, and all of a sudden they start turning up. The one thing that we were all worried about, and I think we all said it, is do Palace have goals in them? well, they've just fucking take the piss out of us, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? The last 2 games. And Roy Hodgson looks as though he's getting 10 years younger with every bloody game, doesn't he? Like, what the hell? Yeah, complete shock. Didn't expect that result at all. And see, when you look at the table now, you'd probably say Palace are probably safe, now. With the momentum that they're building, they're probably safe. I think they're 5 points ahead, but 5 points outside of the bottom 3 now. And they're still playing the teams around them, so I would fully expect them to kind of stay okay now. Leeds, I don't get it. I just don't get what it is. I've also got to feel a bit sorry for the record striker that they brought in Christmas, the boy Ruta. I have no idea what he's going to do to get a game. They brought him on after about 80 minutes. They were already 3-1 down or something, 4-1 down at the time. For the record star, I mean, I don't get it. They're obviously missing the lad Adams in midfield. McKechnie was playing, and it's just not the same. He doesn't look the same without Adams. I'm not necessarily a big fan of Adams, but I do recognise what he brings to that team in terms of his desire and his love for that kind of a role. So they're definitely missing him. Rodrigo is obviously another one that they're missing. He scored some important goals at the beginning of the season for them. I think he came on in the second half, but again, by then it was too late. I just don't think anybody expected Palace to turn up, and they did.
See on Leeds, seeing that point there, Jamie, on the strikers. We said this at the time when there was a January transfer window. They need goals. They're relying on Rodrigo. He's out injured now. And that's what I couldn't understand. I still don't get it. Why did you allow Mars to spend that money and then punt him anyway? And the money they spent on the director signing Ruta, it was only, I've just double checked there because I remember being baffled by it at the time. It was a 1 in 5 striker with Hoffenheim. He wasn't a goal machine. It wasn't going to come in and and solve all the problems, but now he's not even getting a game either.
See, when you think of Rodrigo's been injured, and Wilfred Gnonto has obviously been in and around. He's not scoring the goals, but he's in and around setting them up. You just think, what's the lad Ruta got to do? I just don't get it.
Aye.
Leeds got spanked today as well, didn't they, with another judgment? Yeah. So they owe, was it 25 million to a previous Kevin Augustine for unlawful, shall we say, contract withdrawal, and they've also got to pay the 15 million to his old team for his transfer fee. So that's Leeds done another 40 million. They didn't even keep him.
That's the problem. First of all, with Leeds, their transfer strategy, I've not understood it at all, really. Some of their transfers, for me, the money they haven't spent, top, like talking to some of the Premier League teams, 40, 50 millions, but 20 millions on bang average players. But they panicked when everyone knew Marsh was going to get the sack. They backed him and let him bring a striker in, and then they broke the bank to get him.
But he brought in McKechnie as well, didn't he? Like the same day.
Who's bang average as well, by the way.
Yeah.
And the Augustine, the one that they had to pay, that's come out today, 25 million. They signed him on deadline day, and just to get the deal over the line, they agreed to pay future transfer fee. He hardly paid because he's shit. And then, so there's whoever's picking league strikers will probably replace Ross Wilson at Rangers, but that's another story. But no, he's having an absolute man. So Leeds, they could pay the price for it.
Am I right in thinking Leeds stayed up on the last day of the season as well last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What's his name? Rafinha scored the goal to keep them up. They're going to be I think they're going to be in a last day survival mode again. I think it's going to come down to the last day for them.
No, I agree. Just last bit from me on Palace. Everyone will talk about the sort of forwards at the weekend, but I think they've got 2 centre halves that could slot into a lot of teams in the top 6 in Anderson and Mark Gui. I think they're very, very underrated, and I think there'll be clubs bigger than Palace looking at them in the summer. That's my prediction anyway. But moving it on, gents. Colin, Brentford 1, Newcastle 3. How about this for a stat? The first time Brentford have failed to win a Premier League game in which they have opened the scoring. That was this weekend. So if Brentford have gone 1-0 up, they've gone on to win the game. I couldn't believe that when I see that one this morning. But let's just start on Brentford then, Colin. Obviously, Tony misses a penalty as well. They could have been 2-0 up by the time. They've sort of fallen away a little bit of late with a few of their results. First of all, what did you make of them at the weekend? And then obviously Newcastle. Chips are down, but they've just pulled out another big win. They're the favourites for the top 4 at the minute, surely.
Yeah, on Brentford, they've kind of been put into the same bracket as Brighton, and I think probably it's been a fair comparison throughout the season. But I think we're now seeing the momentum wearing off a wee bit, and I think Brentford are just that level below Brighton. They do get a lot of goals for set pieces, so with Tony missing a penalty, they were, it was always going to be difficult. They've got a young squad, and I think top 10 for them this season would have been great. I think there's a lot of players who are really going to come into their own next season. I think Tony, I think he'll continue. That's if they can keep them. I think we spoke a few weeks ago, will they keep Ivan Tony? But I think we'll maybe see them peter out. I don't think they're in any danger of, I don't know, dropping down to the 11th, 12th or I think they're going to be comfortable. Maybe 9th, 10th. I don't see Fulham or Chelsea at this point overtaking them, but I think they will start to peter out. I think they just probably need to be a bit more clinical in open play, and that's been their trouble the last few weeks. When they did go 1-0 up, however, I thought this was the curse of Newcastle's away form again. I think we've all said this, where they have struggled to really take win the games they should be winning away from home if they want to be seen as a top 4 side, and that was the difference between them and Man U. So I think there's a massive 3 points for them. I really do, and it's something it's maybe now that they have got that, got that big win out of the way. I'm saying big win, for Newcastle, getting 3 points away to Brentford is a decent result the way the away form's been. So I think they will take a bit of momentum with that. I think there's no danger that they'll get top 4. Whether they tip Man U or no, I still think Man U have maybe got a wee bit more in them, if I'm being honest. So I think it'll be Newcastle 4th, but I think comfortably top 4.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think they'll do it. And just on Newcastle, that's Eddie Howe now's reached 100 points in the Premier League with Newcastle, and he's done it in 56 games. Incredible when you think about when he took over and where they were. Only Keegan for Newcastle has done it in less. He's done it in 51 games, and you think about the team they had at the time. So just goes to show how well Eddie Howe's doing. Jamie, obviously, you can touch on the game, but what I want to ask you is Anthony Gordon. Eddie Howe takes him off, and he acts like Andy Robertson.
He's fishing again, isn't he? He's fishing again.
No. In all seriousness, though, 45 million. I don't think we spoke about it at the time for too long, but he seems like a right pain up the you know what, and apparently he'll be training with the under-21s for the end of the season. He won't be playing again, but that's 45 million down the drain for me, because I just don't see it with him, to be honest, as a footballer. But he's obviously got big attitude problem.
Yeah, just to correct as well, I think you said Newcastle won 3-1 at the weekend. It was actually 2-1. They had a goal ruled out. Callum Wilson, his goal didn't stand, so it was 2-1 that the game finished on. But Anthony Gordon was brought on the 46th minute and was subbed on the 93rd minute. I don't really get the handbags from him. Like, it was the 93rd minute. He was trying to change the formation to kind of see the game out. I kind of get that. I mean, no player would want, no sub would want to be subbed off. I get that. But it's like the 93rd minute, you're 2-1 up. Surely there's bigger fish to fry there. Surely you kind of, it's not like he did anything wrong. Eddie Howe said he was just trying to change the team around. I kind of like as well when he came off, in the after bit, Eddie Howe was asked the question about Gordon and he played it down. He's like, no, everything's fine. It was just a change in formation. And then there's a press release the day after saying he's got to train with the under-21s for the rest of the season. So it wasn't fine. And when you see the altercation, Eddie Howe's got a bigger grip on Anthony Gordon than what Andy Robertson did with the linesman. And Anthony Gordon was proper struggling to get him off like a petulant child. It was quite embarrassing, in my opinion. I'm with you. I struggle to see why that transfer happened. It
Yeah.
can't be because of the homegrown quota, because Newcastle have got plenty of English players on the books, young players as well. I don't get why they had to make that kind of a deal, especially for Anthony Gordon, who was hardly setting the world on fire. I don't see what he actually brings that team in itself. So yeah, probably 45 million wasted. He's probably, I said last week, I think it was that the one thing I was very massively impressed with from Newcastle was every signing they'd made so far has done a job, has been a catalyst for what they've done. Anthony Gordon's probably the only one I don't actually see, I don't understand, or I don't get. So maybe there's a bigger picture for him there, but yeah, I don't think they'll cry. I don't think they'll cry too much about him not being in the team. So yeah, I don't get. It was only 5 months ago Anthony Gordon was getting hounded off his homegrown fans in a car park outside the Goodison. So he's probably happy that he's up there. He's up there at that neck of the woods and not having a relegation fight in his hands. But yeah, for such a young player to act the way he did, he was very. I'm going to say disrespectful. Normally, I would try and side with the players, but if you give it the context, it was the 93rd, 94th minute. You're winning 2-1. You're under the cosh. You're changing the formation. Doesn't matter who fucking comes off. You're coming off. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't get that.
We've all spoke about the future for Eddie Howe, and does it have a shelf life at Newcastle, because they're eventually going to try and grow into a bigger club? How he handles this situation will be massive.
Yeah.
Yes, because the big thing that we've been throwing at him is, can he handle that elite level of player? And no, listeners, I am not saying Anthony Gordon is not the elite level of player, but with an elite level of player comes the prima donna and managing the diva mentality. How Eddie Howe deals with this will put a marker down that either you can come in and dictate as a player, or you won't get let away with nonsense.
Yeah, no, I think you make a really good point there on Eddie Howe, and I don't think he takes any shit, by the way. But but as Jamie said a minute ago, Anthony Gordon and respect, I don't think they sit with each other. To treat the way Everton, his boyhood club, the way he did in the end. Even his interview when he joined Newcastle, I thought was really disrespectful, to be honest. But that's.
Again, the one thing that I think the one thing that will see Newcastle over the line of how they're getting on this season, I think goes back to arguably I would say was their best signing so far, and that's Nick Pope. I think he's been brilliant. Nick Pope was always that goalkeeper. When he was at Burnley, who was a great shot stopper, they were talked about he should be England's number one, but it was always, but he's playing for Burnley. How does he get on being at a bigger club? Well, he's arguably at a massive club compared to Burnley, and he's arguably been their player of the season. He saved Ivan Toney's first penalty the other day. He's, apart from the Liverpool game where he did that crazy header, handball, whatever you want to call it, he's been pretty much unflappable all season. I'm a big fan of it, Nick Pope, and he showed that at the weekend.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, he's been top draw. But you're absolutely spot on, Sam, with their signings. They've got 95% right so far. Colin, moving it on then. Wolves beat Chelsea 1-0. I'm sure you guys would have touched. Did you guys last week on Lampard going back to Chelsea? I can't remember if that was in the making or not. But Colin, I'll ask you anyway. I can't understand this one. The money that Chelsea have got, the managers that they can get in, they've gone back to Frank Lampard. I know he's a club legend, but he failed there once. He went to Everton and failed there. I can't get my head around it, to be quite honest with you. But
I don't think he was announced by the time
he was announced about 2 hours after the pod had finished.
Really, yeah.
And you know what, Jamie? Like on that podcast, we could have had 100 guesses each, and we probably still wouldn't have got to Frank Lampard. But that's not to do with our football knowledge. That just sums up Chelsea where they are right now. I mean, at one point Mason was fucking even money to get the job. It's just mental. I really, really like Frank Lampard. This is the wrong job for him. I said at the time when he first went to Chelsea, I get why he done it. He's got an attachment to that club. He was a good up-and-coming coach. It was the wrong job. right job 10 years too early for him. Chelsea are too much a basket case club. Then he went to Everton, which are just basically a mini Chelsea now, the way that we're going. And I said, I don't know why I'm backing Frank to the hill here, like he's my son, but I said he needs a stable club. What does he do? He spits in my face and he goes back to Chelsea. He'll be gone in the summer. He really will be. And like, I think the best he can hope for is just to at least get a wee bit of a upward trajectory for Chelsea to try and stand up in good stead for his next job. I'll be honest, I've only seen highlights of this. I'm not surprised. I don't. There's deeper lying problems at Chelsea other than the manager, and I think Lampard's just got to be there till the summer. As I said, the best thing that can happen for Chelsea is they appoint they get somebody confirmed to come in for the first week in June, because it has to be a long, hard pre-season. I don't know how much they need to overhaul the squad. I think they really just need to get a bit of unison and a bit of cohesion in that squad, because it's very much individuals instead of a team game right now.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, Colin. I'd be interested to see what happens with Chelsea this summer. It depends who the manager is, but I think they need to, first and foremost, before they bring anyone else in, they need to get rid of a lot of players. They need to cut down the numbers. I read an article today about when Graham Potter was there, and there were some players that in the dressing room that couldn't even sit on a bench; they had to sit on the floor. And there was a lot of players not playing, so there was a lot of slide digs at him, and it's going to take a really strong manager to go in there and clear the decks. Frank Lampard can't do it, and he won't do it. He won't be there. I think, do you know what? I'd be surprised if he manages in the Premier League again after this little short spell. But Jamie, got to give credit to Wolves. Obviously, it's a massive win for them. They've struggled at home as well of late. And you said there earlier about Son with goal of the weekend, but I think this one gives it a run for the money as well. By Nunes. What a strike and what a big win, as I say, for Wolves.
Yeah, and it's funny as well because Nunes technically shouldn't have been playing because he was sent off the week before, but it was rescinded because of mistaken identity. So we kind of got on the pitch, and I think it was that altercation, wasn't it, with the Wolves, and he started getting, I think, off the bench, got sent off, and Matheus Nunes was a mistaken identity, so that got rescinded. So he managed to get a game. Again, going into the weekend, I don't think anybody would have expected a Wolves win. You would have expected maybe an edgy game where Chelsea maybe win it 1-0 or they get a draw out of it, similar as what they did against Liverpool. But to go to Wolves, who probably have scored the least goals this season than any other team, and lose by 3 points, I'm sorry, it's just laughable. It's and that's not that's not Frank. That's the team. To him, he changed the team about. He brought Sterling in. He played people at their more natural positions, but for whatever reason, they just can't get it done. They can't get it over the line. And Kanté was back injured again, so didn't play. Like, he only comes out once a season to come play Liverpool. At least it's the only game he actually gets fit to play. But he used Aubameyang in the game as well. So there's obviously big problems with the squad. I personally don't think Frank's there for anything more than just the end of the season. I think he's pretty much made that evidence in his own discussions as well. The one thing that would trouble me is the bit I'm trying to make head. Chelsea, whether people like to admit it or not, Chelsea are a powerhouse. They've shown that with the money that they've spent this season. Why have they got to employ an interim manager? They're talking to Nagelsmann, they're talking to Luis Enrique, arguably two of the best coaches in the world as it stands at the moment. One's available on a free, and the other one would have a severance package to pay off with Bayern. We talked about Potter getting punted last week. That package is probably going to cost Chelsea the best part of £60 million. So arguably taking Nagelsmann out of his contract for anything from 15 to 20 million seems like chump change. Why is this not getting done? What is it that's not happening? What is it? What's the bit that we don't see here? And I think the best headline, Mason, you'll like this. The best headline I seen on Twitter was apparently Todd Bowley took advice from James Corden on employing Frank Lampard. James Corden's a West Ham fan, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a prick, isn't he, the bargain?
Absolute,
Yeah, he's
an absolute
a
tangent. You
prick.
just think, if that is honestly true, that is absolute mental. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't get how they're not getting a full-time manager across the line. And I get why Frank's gone back. He's been asked to help out. He's going to go back. He's going to go. He would do it for free. Do you know what I mean? Because he loves the club. I get that. What do you think they've asked him to go in and do? Because it can't be get us into the top 8. Can't be. Is it just make sure we don't fall any further? I mean, fucking hell. Imagine
think-
saying that as a Chelsea manager.
Do you know what it is? I think there's worrying signs at Chelsea that this ain't even a strong manager. This Todd Bowley seems like a right character, and his decision making, even with the transfers, the way they've gone in and got players and spent all that money, yet they haven't got a recognised number 9. Just even as I said, bringing in Potter at the time, I don't think was the right. Well, obviously, he wasn't in the end, but Frank Lampard coming back in, and then you hear stories of that with James Corden. So if I was a Chelsea fan at the minute, and they love to go back, obviously Abramovich, he was a great chairman for them, but I'd be a little bit worried at the minute if I was a Chelsea fan, because I think that I don't see it getting any better anytime soon, to be honest. But obviously that will depend on who comes in this summer.
Yeah, I'd also seen as well. I think Colin mentioned it that whether they were the squad would need an overhaul. So the problem that they have at the moment is that they're facing financial fair play restrictions because they're not qualifying for Champions League. So all that money he spent is going to put him in the shit for the next 2 years. So there's talk that they're going to have to let go the best part of nearly 25, 30 players. Just
and
to kind
there's
of clear
why
the
the
books.
likes of Lewis and Ricky won't come now. Like, why would
Aye.
you? Like, I know money talks and that, but what's the difference between, I don't know, being a multi-millionaire to a multi-millionaire? Guys like
Yeah.
Lewis and Ricky and the boys just left Munich. They're going to work in any vacant job in the world. Like, why would you go to a basket case? I don't understand why that. If you've already made your money, why go to the circus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're spot on. You're spot on. That's, and I say that the first thing I said when I said about Chelsea is I can't believe they've got Frank Lampard anyway. But you're absolutely spot on. Top managers at the minute, especially where the season is, they're going to be like, no thanks. So yeah, you're absolutely spot on. But as I say, we could talk about, I think, Chelsea that could take up a whole pod. But Jamie,
we'll need the summer transfer window just to talk about them.
We will. Yeah, and it won't be players coming in; it will be players going out.
No.
Jamie, I'll come to you first on this one. Then with Aston Villa, they beat Forest 2-0. I think this was the biggest banker of the weekend for me. Villa, they've scored in every Premier League game under Emery, which is 17. All 17 they've scored. Watkins gets on the score sheet again. He's on fire. And that's them unbeaten in the last 7 games. The mad thing is, considering where they were when he took over, they're now only 6 points behind Spurs. So it just goes to the turnaround that they've had.
I think I said last week, if you take the points that Emery's earned at Aston Villa since he joined, only Arsenal and City have done better, which is absolutely mental considering. I think I also said last week that I think the question was did Emery take over Aston Villa when they were bottom, but he didn't. It was actually 17th when he took over. So from 17th to 6th, it's absolutely mental what he's done, and it's even mental that he's getting the tune out of one of Colin's favourite players, Tyrone Mings. Like, not that he's any good, but they're getting clean sheets. Like, it's mental that they're actually getting these kind of results. They do have 1 or 2 players that I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of John McGinn. I think he's like if I was to kind of give him any kind of credit, I think he's like the next James Milner. In that kind of a mold of a player. I've got a lot of time for John McGinn. I think he'd do a good team, a really good job. Also, quite like Douglas Luiz. I think he's a good, solid midfielder. He was a young lad when he was at City, and he's him going to Aston Villa was a big punt, and he's done brilliant for them. But yeah, they've got a consistent lineup. They've got consistent people scoring. We questioned whether letting people like Danny Ings was a good choice in January, and Watkins decides to start playing as a proper number 9 and getting punts in. The boy Buendia starting to play well. Remember, and this is all without the lad Philip Coutinho. Like Coutinho's not touched the ball in God knows how many weeks for them. I think they're getting a tune out of a lot of players. I think it's going to be a big summer for them because arguably only one of these players is an Emery player, and that's the boy Moreno. So it'll be interesting to see what changes he wants to see to the squad come the end of the season. If they do finish in the European slots, which is a big ask, but if they do, again, that's a bigger restraint on that squad. It means that he's gonna want more money. So yeah, it could be careful what you wish for Aston Villa, but in the meantime, they're gonna lap it up.
Absolutely, and you make a point there about Coutinho, but I think, to be honest, I think Coutinho was a top player at Liverpool, by the way, and then he went and had a good spell. But I think him coming out has been the best thing that's happened to Villa. The intensity's there. I think he's a bit of a luxury now, Coutinho. But Colin, on Nottingham Forest, then another defeat. I think it's 6 or 7 games without a win. My question to you with Forest is: do you think Steve Cooper will be there to finish out the season?
It's hard to predict, man. Like I thought when we got past February that was the manager sacking is done and dusted. But there you go. I don't think he will, but at the same time, I don't know what difference it makes because I think Nottingham Forest are doomed now. They really are. I was just looking ahead of the next 4 fixtures. They've away to Man U, then at home to Liverpool, then away to Brighton, and at home to Brentford. And I don't see them taking a single point for any of them before they play Southampton, which is probably just a dead rubber because both of them will be down at that point. They're maybe looking ahead to 13th of May where they're away to Chelsea and they're probably looking to get their goal difference up at that point with the way things are going. But so I don't see this downward trajectory changing for Nottingham Forest, but I wouldn't be surprised if they let them go and if there is a target that they have for next season who is going to be the championship. And I think no enough teams in the Premier League do this. They need to be realistic. They've got that parachute payment. I find the early, sometimes even a month extra coming in at the end of April instead of waiting for the 1st of June to get working with this group of players, at least to suss out who you want to keep and who you want to move on. That can make all the difference in the championship. It's a long, hard season, so getting the right start is big. I think Nottingham Forest would be wise to, if they've got somebody else in mind, to move Steve Cooper on.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I agree. I think they're down. I think they're gone. But Jamie, we'll do one game. We've got 2 games. I'm right in saying we've got 2 games because I always miss out a game. We've got 2 games to go. So you can come to your other favourite team, Man United. Oh, you have 2 favourite teams, Man United and Everton. Didn't enjoy this game at the weekend. I thought it was a bit of a nothing game really. I have to say Everton missed a really big chance with Ellis Sims actually to level the game up, which would have changed it a lot. But I thought Man United were always quite comfortable. I think they had 21 shots in the first half. Pickford had a really good half, and I think it was just a routine win in the end, really, for Man United.
Yeah, Man United at home against a struggling bottom of the table team. It was probably a 3 points everybody would have predicted. Everton do have it in them to cause an upset, but not in the form that they're in. It's normally when they're trying to challenge for something that you would expect Everton to turn up. As you can imagine, I had Man United on some of my coupons just to make sure that the knife was twisted in when Everton didn't get any kind of points. So it was no shock. It was no surprise. The one thing that has been a shock is like, who the fuck is McTominay? What's this all about? Like absolutely mental that he's and you know what? They're not even like tap-ins either. He's actually getting cracking shots away, like in the box, drilling them in and stuff. He's just hit a bit of foam into, and they're reaping it. I kind of said it back last week. I think Man United have been very, very different without Eriksen and Casemiro, and the last 4 or 5 games have been evidence of that. I think I could be wrong, but I think that's Casemiro's ban now done. So I think it comes back to the starting lineup. So I would anticipate a very different Man United. However, the news was everybody's still waiting on the news about what's happened with Rashford. He hobbled off after about 70 minutes with a hamstring. There was talk about him going for a scan. So we're not sure if that's his season done and dusted. If it is, I would argue that's Man United's season done and dusted because Wout Weghorst isn't getting the goals. Jadon Sancho isn't getting the goals. They're relying on Scott McTominay, who's going to get dropped for Casemiro. So it's a bit of a damn squib talking about Man U at the moment, because you just don't know what you're going to get from them, I think.
No, absolutely. And I think Everton will be looking at that game thinking, we'll look what's beyond Man United at Old Trafford. So I'd be interested to see how they pick it up with the next one. Colin, the last game then at the weekend was a really dull one. Fulham 0, West Ham 1. First time West Ham won and kept a clean sheet in the Premier League since August. Their defence has been leaking goals. And then the other stat that made me laugh was West Ham's first ever win in the Premier League, where an own goal was the winner. So the West Ham fans, it's a big win for them, because it keeps Moyes. Apparently, if he'd have dropped points on Saturday, was gone. Which I don't know how true it was. That was just sort of the rumours. And if you watch I don't know if you see his post-match press conference, but I've never seen a man so happy to get 3 points. But as I say, big win for him.
Aye, but when we talk about getting to this end of the season, it's just I'm a big believer in teams make their own luck. So it's the harder you work, the more you train, the luckier you get. That old cliche, and we've all predicted that David Moyes will keep West Ham up, and it's excruciating for West Ham fans now, because it's not pretty. But like going what I spoke about earlier with Bournemouth. No, everybody has the balls to go and try and make it pretty. No, everybody can make it pretty, but it's a big 3 points for West Ham, and that takes them 3 points above the drop zone, if you like. But just going back to that, sometimes it's just, it doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there. 23% possession West Ham had in that game there.
Mental, innit?
Mental, absolutely mental. They. Fulham made 659 passes. West Ham made 196. Not even passing the ball 200 times in a game, and they win 1-0. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
3 points to 3 points at that end of the table, and it's just bizarre. But it's stuff like that. When that happens, it happens. I don't see them going down. I don't know how they're going to do it. Like, they will scrape it, but it won't be pretty. But they will be fine. For Fulham, got a bit of the Brentfords about them behind. They're starting to peter off towards the end of the season, aren't they? They've hit their highs. Be interesting to see how they build in that next year. But
that Man U FA Cup game is kind of the highlight, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that they lost Willian and Mitrovic and the manager, that's their season pretty much done and dusted, isn't it? It's damage limitation now, but how quickly they drop.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And the way they lost that game, I think it took its toll. It's actually see as well, Fulham have lost the most London derbies out of any other London club.
You love a stat, Mason, don't you?
love it, mate. So if they play another team in London, don't put them in your ACCA. But gents, that's all 10. And I said we slowly got through them all. But as always, going to finish off with a little question. And this one, mate, this one's giving me a headache. But Jamie, I'll put it out to the listeners. I'll say the question first, but Jamie, I'll come to you first on it. It's the Hall of Fame for the Premier League's going to, another 3 inductees will be included shortly. But the list is Tony Adams, Sol Campbell, Peter Cech, Andy Cole, Ashley Cole, Jermaine Defoe, Les Ferdinand, Rio Ferdinand, Gary Neville, Michael Owen, John Terry, Yaya Toure, and Nemanja Vidic. I won't read that again, but that is such a quality list.
You love missing one, don't you? Michael Carrick.
Michael Carrick in it as well.
And Robbie Fowler.
And Robbie Fowler.
Listen, Michael Carrick's getting nowhere near it, but Robbie Fowler's got a good shout. But Jamie, I know there's going to be a Liverpool player there, but
I don't know why you would think that.
Who's your 3?
So my 3 picks, I actually quite found this. I found this quite easy in terms of the 3 that I would pick. If you go back a few weeks ago, and what I've tried to do is I've tried to mix it up so it's not all the same position. So the first one for me out of that list would be arguably the best left back we've ever seen in the Premier League, and that's Ashley Cole. I think because of exactly what we said a few weeks ago, his honours list and the service that he did in terms of the teams, I think he's an absolute shoehorn in. I'd fail to see why Tony Adams would get in before Ashley Cole, for it, as an example. So yeah, he would be my first pick. My second pick, I'm gonna go with Michael Owen. I'm an absolute Robbie Fowler love it. I love Robbie Fowler, but in terms of Premier League history, Michael Owen stands out because of his age. Michael Owen was the first Wayne Rooney, if you like. He just never hit the same kind of heights as what we would have expected. And I might be a bit biased because obviously you kind of have to factor in the England time as well when he was there, but it was for such a young lad, and he won the European. Not the Ballon d'Or. He won the second one down, didn't he? As a personal honour.
He won the Ballon d'Or.
Was it the Ballon d'Or? Sorry,
Aye.
I keep forgetting. So, for his career, the lad was special. Those runs in behind, he was absolutely sensational. So he will be my Liverpool pick. And my third pick, and probably one of my favourite players from that list, Yaya Toure. Absolutely loved Yaya Toure. I thought, when I think of him now, his big marauding runs, he goes box to box, some of the important goals he scored. He would fit in this Man City team now. He was that good, and I know obviously he was there when Pep came in, but I'm a massive fan of Yaya Toure and what he brought to that City team. I'd put him down as one of my favourite midfielders from this generation. So yeah, that's my picks: Ashley Cole, Michael Owen, and Yaya Toure. I'm going for.
No, three good picks, and can't argue with anything you've just said there, Jamie. To be fair, I think there's no wrong answer from this list. To be honest, I think it's just preference.
Michael Carrick's the wrong answer.
Yeah, no, that's why I've missed him out. I've missed him out on purpose. He shouldn't be on that list. Colin, what's your 3 picks, mate?
I was shaking my head when Jamie said he found it easy. I think I've had every variation of this over the last week when I've been thinking about it. So I've tried to balance it in between honours one, because fellow Premier League watchers will know my thoughts on Harry Kane's career based on the fact that how many trophies he's won. So I think honours one has to be a big thing. Longevity and talent of the player as well. So I'm trying to balance that. And the biggest one in there streaming out to me has to be Gary Neville. Just playing at the top level for so long, playing through different eras, and Jamie was talking about on an international stage as well, what he done in the international stage, and taking away for the Premier League. He's got a couple of Champions League medals in his bag, and I think the further we get away for his time of playing, the less credit he's going to get, because he was in a team full of superstars, not just one team, but time and time again. Ferguson reshuffled that team, brought new players in, Ronaldo's gigs, even before that, Cantona, whatever, and Gary Neville was always a constant. He is there for me in the top one in the Hall of Fame. Next down, I'm going to agree with Jamie. Ashley Cole getting to win the Premier League with 2 different iconic squads, the Invincibles, and then going into Jose Mourinho's side as well. And just it was very hard for them to go in and not just add to the run of the mill of the talent there. He actually took that team up a notch. And I think he is. I know I've just spoken about Gary Neville being the first pick here, but I think he's the best fullback we've seen in the Premier League history. Ashley Cole, absolutely such a talent. Probably won't get a lot of brownie points for this, man, but Big John Terry's my third pick. I know he's an absolute scumbag as a person, but as a football player, I think he might be the best centre half I've ever watched. And see, when I was in high school, and you used to always do your World 11s, and at that point you had your Cannavaros, your Nessas, your Maldinis, whatever. I struggle to see a better centre half in the world than John Terry at times at his peak. And being the captain of Chelsea, he did drop a lot of brownie points for a couple of Hines, obviously doing everybody's misses and greeting like a big Jesse when he lost the Champions League final when he's maybe a hard man centre half, but he still makes it in for me.
Or celebrating other people's trophies with full kits on that he didn't even play in.
Listen, I was shy at football. I was a super sub man, so I done the same thing there. So he's a man after my own heart.
Nah, brilliant boys. Can't argue with any of those, and probably showing our age a little bit, Colin, here, but I would agree with you. Ashley Cole was my first pick, and John Terry was my second pick. I think he was, for me, the best centre half in my generation. He'd be my pick, but I'd pair him up with Rio Ferdinand as well, because I thought Ferdinand was that.
Ferdinand would have been my fourth pick.
Yeah, just thing with Ferdinand is just he was different to all the older centre halves. You had Tony Adams. He's obviously in the list. Ferdinand was the first one. Was that ball playing centre half, but he could. Yeah. He had a turn of pace. He was strong. Obviously played for 3 Premier League clubs as well in West Ham and Leeds, and then to Man United. So I couldn't really leave them out. I can't believe I've gone with 3 defenders. But as I say, I'm probably showing my age a little bit there. But 3 Englishmen and the longevity I've gone with as well. I think, as you said, Jamie, Michael Owen is a great shout. He was so good when he was breaking through. But I just think the longevity, obviously, he went away for a little while, didn't he? And the injuries in the end as well. But no wrong answer. So please get who you think your 3 picks would be, and we can discuss those.
I'm surprised, Mason. I thought you would have went with 3 Chelsea players and put Petr Cech in there.
No. Got to be honest there. Got to be honest. No, maybe them for the next time, But no, all left to do, gents, is thanks for coming on. Starting, Jamie. Thank you, mate.
I appreciate it. As always, love a good chat about the football. The good thing is that the football's absolutely mental right now with the decisions, so we get to talk about it even better. So, I'm looking forward to next week's already.
Yeah, I have to talk about referees again now. Lose me here. Colin, as always, thank you, mate.
No, always a pleasure coming on, lads. Cheers for having me on. And it is a nice wee welcome break to talk about the real stuff up north. It's nice to watch it, having a wee bit of fun talking about football. It's always a welcome change.
But yeah, definitely. I look forward to this. Look forward to this pod to get away from it. So hopefully,
Mason, I got a question for you. So the tie of the round coming up this week looks to be Chelsea v Brighton. What's your predictions?
Chelsea v Brighton.
Yep.
Brighton will beat them.
You think Brighton will win?
Yeah.
That'll be Frank on 2nd loss in a row.
Yeah, Brighton will beat them. There's no evidence I see Lampard and Chelsea that they'll beat Brighton. No way.
Colin?
Brighton will strut them. Lampard will be sacked by Monday. I don't see any other way.
Not that, we'll see you next Monday.
James called him to take over. but thanks, lads, and listeners. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week to review the madness. Take care.